Okay, yeah.
Not Margaret's grandmother, right?
Yeah, right. The gal that's getting the room is Flatter's granddaughter. So.
Yeah, I think it's certainly, even if it's only a certain portion of people there who are interested in traditional music, it's a network. It's a coming together of people of like minds, and it's fun to go. We really can't afford it. If it were nearer home, I would probably go, and I'd probably enjoy some things, and some things would, like some of the showcase stuff, would really turn me on.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I went to the Washington meeting. I did not go to a single showcase.
Yeah.
Nobody that was officially showcasing had anything that was offering anything that I really wanted.
Yeah, now you see, as I tried to convey in that email I wrote to you, this is hitting, this is rubbing some nerves now a lot, to the point that they're having talks about it. And, yeah, and I think I kind of summarized some of that in one of the messages I sent to you.
I know you mentioned it.
Where Mark Moss said this has to happen here, because somebody raised the prospect of another meeting. One of the traditionalists break away and be in the Folk Alliance and have another meeting. And Mark Moss stood up, and he was pretty stern. He's good. He talks well and speaks well, and he said, that's expensive and it's bothersome, and this is what that's for.
Yeah, but you could do it in one hotel room in
Yeah. I don't know where it's all going to go to unless there is the type of outreach that I'd like to see. I'd like to see get them involved in community-based groups, helping them promote things, or even just giving them money to pay the light bill. I don't know, something like.
It was Al Grierson that recently sent a message into the Folk DJ thing saying that Utah Phillips and Pete Seeger, who've both been honored by the organization,
Right.
are questioning whether it's worth bothering to go back.
Yeah. Well.
The meeting. Pete was there in Washington, and in one of the rooms where the singing was going on, they did a special sort of a sea songs and so on gathering, and he participated with great enthusiasm.
Right.
And it was wonderful that people got a chance to sit near and sing with a man that they've admired and loved for 4 decades.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
That was one of the best meetings. One funny thing that happened in Philly at the organizational meeting was that, as we were saying, there was this little lounge that was designated for late night singing, and Ed Miller was there, and Canadian people, a lot of people, and there were a couple of folks who set up and did about 5 numbers in a row. They were, just planning to do a mini concert.
Oh.
So Sandy and I were really annoyed, and Sandy said to a friend of ours from Michigan, hey, Matt, we haven't heard you do a song. And he sang a song, and Ed sang a song, and it started to go around, and these two people who had started out hogging the show went off at some other place where they could find themselves an audience.
Right.
But there are people who definitely want to be heard, and they want others to listen, and then there are people whose attitude towards music is more participatory.
Right.
And a question of sharing, and not I'm the star and you're the listener.
Say the song's the thing. Not the
Right.
song.
I don't know how you're doing on time. I had some questions for you that were unrelated, per se, to the Folk Alliance. I don't know if you want to do them now. We've been at it about 45 minutes, or I could do it.
It's your nickel.
Well, I could talk. That's all right. It's either now or later. I got a big investment in what I'm doing here.
Michael.
What's that?
It's
It's
fine. It's fine.
Good. I'm kind of picking at some of the things that you wrote me a couple of messages over the last week or so, and you've got some stuff in your website. So I read through this and I plucked out some things. But I hope some of these things can be revealing of some of the issues here. You in reference to your work with the Folk Alliance, Sandy, you wrote to me, I thought we might be working to expand the interest in and market for traditional music, and then this phrase, and contemporary music that reflected its values. And I was intrigued by what are those values that contemporary music that reflected the values of traditional music, which presupposes the existence of certain values, which you've defined in your mind, I guess.
Or style.
Okay.
I think of style, I think of participation,
Mm-hmm.
I think of reflection. rather than individual.
All right.
And
Okay.
the sort of thing you find in labor songs, the sort of thing you find in songs of even the songs of courting and complaint that reflect problems that are shared by a lot of people, but not quite in the same way that the philosophists of the pop world.
Yeah.
Navel-gazers.
Yeah.
So,
Sandy, can I say?
I think of, let me just name a few song makers that will tell you what I mean. Utah
if he knows,
Utah
well.
Phillips, Cy Khan,
I know, okay.
Craig Johnson, and people that write songs that speak of more, what's the word I want, universal problems than individual.
Okay.
Or it can be individual, but somehow it's not so navel-gazing as some of the very young songs that there are millions of, thousands of now. But when I was first drawn to folk music as a student, and I had a couple of enlightened teachers, and went to camp and learned a bunch of songs there. And what I really didn't like the Tin Pan Alley music of the 40s that I heard on the radio. Yeah, I found it somehow shallow and superficial and pizzazzy, like, the writer saying, okay, what am I going to do to throw a bean in the pot today?
Right.
Commerciality to me just really was very obvious. And when I heard some traditional songs and ballads, the honesty, simplicity, a kind of straightforward quality, understatement,
Right.
those were the qualities that attracted me. And you sort of get back to Potter Stewart. It's hard to define, but you sort of know it when you hear it.
Okay.
Mike Agranoff did an article in one of the early Folk Alliance publications talking about the accessibility of the songs that make it a different cup of tea than the pop folk thing.
Okay.
And one thing he mentioned was having choruses that people could join in on and share the song in that way.
Okay.
And that's something that I look for in something that some of Tom Paxton's songs have done extremely well. Mostly, I think, his earlier songs did that became part of the sort of the folk revival repertoire.
Right.
And you got to give credit for someone who writes a song that, like Utah Phillips, who can hear somebody singing the green gold, the rolling hills of West Virginia, and be delighted that the person thinks it's a traditional song.
Right. And I've read that that's apparently happened to Paxton as well on occasion.
Yeah, well, it certainly happened to you and McCall.
Yeah.
And we know an incident where Malvina Reynolds heard a young Irish troubadour singing Dead Leaves in My Pocket.
Little Land.
When I'm in a little land. And it said it was a traditional song, which anybody who knows anything about traditional music would know it was not. But he announced it as such, and she stood up and said, "Young man, I wrote that song."
She was at the concert. But, aside from just the singability, or because not all of them are, of course, some are more difficult, the fact that a song is written because of a genuine feeling, a complaint about love or work or life condition, or maybe just something amusing to pass the time on a long night in a bothy or a bunkhouse up in the lumber woods. And the songs were made up not for a commercial purpose.
Right.
They were made up to express feeling, sadness, to entertain, to rock a baby. I mean, I look at lullabies as work songs born out of sheer desperation often. Please let me find a song that'll put that kid to sleep.
Well, it gives credence to the contemporary attitude of the folklorists talking about functionality.
Yeah.
It had certainly it had a function.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, some
He was here last week.
What?
He was here last week.
Yep. Who's head of the department down there now?
In folklore?
Yeah, is it
Deborah Caption heads the center. She's an anthropologist. It's not even a department. It's a small program.
Roger Abrams was there sometime back.
Oh, he's been gone for years. Yeah.
Sure.
He went out to California and then he became head of the.
Oh, no,
He's at Penn. He's at Penn. Yeah, he's been at Penn for quite a while, and Penn is under attack. You know, the folklore programs are getting gobbled up. Yeah. Yeah, I suspect that as soon as Roger retires, it's gone.
Really?
Yeah,
The university wants to get rid of it?
the universities all over want to get rid of folklore departments. They're getting subsumed within broader categories like cultural studies and American studies, ethnic studies.
Well, when you grow up.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're just not. They're not fashionable.
Can I ask you, was the Texas program cut way back?
Pardon me?
Was the Texas program bigger and now it's...
Yeah, it was more significant years ago. I understand.
Is Roger Renwick down there?
Yeah, Roger's here. In fact, Roger mentioned, Caroline, that he called you with a question a few weeks ago, and he had a wonderful conversation.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what he asked me.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't tell me that. And the W is silent. It's Rennick, Roger Rennick.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
And he is here. In fact, I had dinner with him and Joe Hickerson and Roger's wife when Joe was down here. Roger's been a friendly face to me in the years I've been here.
He sounded like just an absolutely lovely guy.
Roger's a sweetheart.
Poetry.
But Roger has one primary motivation now in life, and that is retirement.
Yeah. I assume that Roger Abrams must be approaching the same
I think so. Yeah.
attitude at this
Well,
point.
that sounds like it's bad news for the Penn department.
Oh yeah, I think it's my understanding, and this is all hearsay here and there, but it is that it sort of survived a political attack from within the school, but barely. And I think Roger's prestige is probably doing a lot to keep it there. But when he goes, I suspect it's gone. Can I ask you?
Bad news. I know John Patterson was in folklore with Joe at Indiana and ended up getting a degree in American Studies, teaching American Studies.
He just retired too.
Well, you can teach anything you want in American Studies. The reality is that if you come out calling yourself a folklorist, you're battling upstream in terms of getting a job.
Word for Barnes and Noble.
If you call yourself a scholar of cultural studies and do the exact same work,
Sure.
you can do better. That's just fashion, and if you want to roll with it, okay.
Well, I think it's just marvelous that, after having another career, you decided to do this.
Well, I'm lucky.
Archie Green's been subversive forever.
Archie Green, I tell people my Archie Green story, and they just laugh. They just say, "Oh, that's a good one."
Which that he encouraged you to go ahead?
Oh yeah. I spent about 3 or 4 years visiting Archie in his living room, and then announced to my wife, "You know what I'd really like to do."
Well, I think it's great.
California?
Pardon me?
You were living in California?
We were in San Francisco. Yeah, I mean, that's where I was working. Our kids were born there,
Yeah.
and
You were a lawyer there for some years.
close to 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I hope you're not regretting your decision.
Oh, I'm having a ball. Can I keep? Are you willing to? Can you push through a little bit, or do you want to?
No, we're fine.
Okay.
What I wanted to say about the folklore, certainly people like that were welcome to come, but a lot of them are very involved in their own books and classes and whatever. And when we did go to the folklore society, even though people like Sandy Ives and a lot of the other people, we very token.
Jan Verland, I believe. Yeah.
And we knew Kenny,
Right.
but there was a certain aspect to the folklore society meetings that were meat markets for folklorists, and we were people involved in music, which was certainly not fashionable with the Dorson crowd.
Right. Exactly.
I'm from northern Indiana. Do you know Dorson's book, Land of the Mill Rats?
No, I know all about the Dorson Wars, but I don't know that
Yeah,
book.
well,
It's one of those, I would never do anything commercial with folklore lies.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
anyway, it's about the Calumet region of
Uh-huh.
Indiana, just outside Chicago, and that's my home area. And the guy who took him around Whiting, Indiana, lives right across the street. Lived right across the street from my father, and where I grew up. So it was. That was one Dorson book I kind of enjoyed because it's about my home area. But it sounded like Indiana was just a terrible place for many people to be, particularly if you were female.
I think in the 60s and 70s it might have been, yeah. But of course, that Dorson was cutting against a grain of avocational folklorists that was really how the profession began. He wanted to professionalize it.
Yes.
And if you professionalize it, you need a language and you need exclusivity. And
Well,
so...
in that case, he would have been fine on the board of directors of the Folk Alliance.
Right.
Trying to professionalize folk music.
Yeah. Now, do you consider this old-fashioned music, Sandy? You used that phrase with me. You said weekends you're often away performing your old-fashioned sort of music.
He was just putting himself down.
Oh, are you? Okay.
We don't do any John, what's his name, Leonard Cohen songs.
Okay.
We do a program with some contemporary songs by people whose work we admire,
Uh-huh.
but with a lot of traditional songs.
Right.
We still sing folk songs.
Sure.
There are a lot of contemporary songs that are really written in the style and spirit of the old and,
Uh-huh.
have the qualities that attracted us to music in the first place. Obviously, many of those traditional songs are about things that happened a long time ago, but there are a lot of them about current events, too, that are wonderful.
Right.
And it's just, we really don't. I don't care. I really don't like pop music.
Right. Huh?
I realize that it's being popular means that a lot of people do like it.
I prefer singing a song that reflects the concerns of my community and
Uh-huh.
of other communities. I mean, I've just finished reading 4 books on the Southern Tenant Farmers Union and the protest demonstration in the Boot Heel in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And, here are the John Hancock songs coming out of the Tenant Farmers Union. And he being a black songmaker and organizer for the tenant. This interests me.
Yeah.
And I think we can use something like this to inform our audiences and perhaps make them aware of the continuing problems that face people all over the country.
Right.
And, whether the South Carolina really should fly the flag, the Confederate flag on their state capitol building. We have to think about things like that.
Right.
And I think the old songs often can make people more aware of where we're coming from.
Right.
And, I'm not sure that the Leonard Cohen Suzanne song is going to tell people much about what's going on in the world.
Well, that isn't even the example I would necessarily use, Sandy, because what you've got now is an awful lot of stuff that's basically pop music, but if it's played with an acoustic guitar, then it's considered, quote, folk.
That's the definition that just came up on the folk DJ list. I read this book
Acoustic music.
to see how many records I waste.
To irritate yourself.
Their playlist.
Well, when was the term folk lost, to use a phrase you put it to me? When and why was it lost?
Wasn't that came out of Dylan's Going Electric?
Was that the result of the 60s boom? I mean, that's my thought. That's where it...
I thought so.
Yeah.
But I guess Paul Stamler is someone you should talk to in St. Louis. Have you?
No. How does he spell his name, by the way?
Tamler.
Okay, I don't know him.
Very knowledgeable folk disc jockey that has a show in St. Louis.
Huh.
And I'll send you his address.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. If he's got an email and a phone, I'd like that. Or a mailing address.
He recently did a sort of a paragraph and a half in answer to a question on this website, on this DJ list,
Uh-huh.
sort of running a quick history of the revival of what happened when as things changed.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
And a musician himself, and I don't know, just very well spoken.
Not
Yeah.
anybody that we ever do through the Folk Alliance.
No,
however.
but he ran sound for the program we did in St. Louis.
No, but what I mean is, if he's been involved in the Folk Alliance, it was in the years since we were there, so he doesn't have that connection. But it's true that he wrote a really fine explanation of trying to deal with this. Okay, what is folk, and talking about the Romantic movement and people in Germany, looking to the shepherds and farmers and
Right.
then later the political action. People really, many people, there are still people who think of topical songs mainly when they're thinking of folk.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then the folk scare of the 60s. And, the point is we are up against a great, huge, obviously huge music industry that has commercial music as its entire goal and purpose.
Right.
We're outnumbered, aren't we?
Well, your website says, I'm going to hit you with another one of your writings, because this is an optimistic one. On your website, which I guess this was written a couple of years ago from what I could glean, it says that the traditional music we hope to preserve and promote is happily flourishing once more following a period of dormancy. So that sounds kind of optimistic. And have you in fact seen that?
Well, to a certain extent.
Uh-huh.
Through things like the Mudcat Cafe,
Okay.
where people are at least becoming more aware of its existence.
Right.
And yet there are a lot of people on the Mudcat website, participants in the threads that are discussed there, who surprise me at how naive they are.
Yeah.
Someone recently asked for the words to the Froggy Went a Courtin', and bingo, the first response to the question was a text that they had learned from Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And that really, kind of shook me.
Well, at least he's singing a tradition.
Well, he did a traditional
I
album.
know he did. I know he did.
Terribly misleading.
I'll tell you, obviously it's pockets of interest, but we found through the people who are interested in the recordings that we produce, a lot of them want Gordon Bach, beautiful bass voice.
Right.
But they tend to be pretty loyal, and the people that we know around the country who are interested in traditional music are really interested. It's not a fly-by-night interest. So, it may not be huge in numbers, but it certainly is still existing and surviving.
However, you will notice most of the field recordings that I did are available now on our custom cassette.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You don't keep them.
Site, because the demand for them is so slight,
Right.
so little, that we can't even afford to produce them as commercially run cassettes,
Right.
where you need to do a run of 500.
Right.
And, that would last me for 50 years.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Sandy, the fact that now things that come out on CD have a sort of new life all over again because they're in a new format. We've been thinking about custom CDs like the Smithsonian is doing in both ways, or even possibly, some kind of a run on something traditional like Frank Prophet.
Yeah, I'm going to do the Frank Prophet.
Because at this point, no cassettes are selling very well now.
Right.
So, it really isn't so much a slam against the traditional singers.
But the one way that we've decided we can keep the traditional music available for people, and I'm talking about the field recording, is through this custom cassette. We'll make the individual cassette for the person.
Right.
And provide the booklet with the text and the headnotes to go along with it. Otherwise, it's going to completely be gone out of the catalog.
Well, Chris Strachwitz told me one device that he's found helpful in enabling some of his back catalog to survive is through creative anthologizing.
Well, we've done that too.
Okay.
And I overdid it.
Oh, okay.
We started doing, we
Yeah.
Trio, because they were our biggest sellers.
Right.
And rather than just duplicating the material or the individual records that we had done earlier, I did an anthology of a compilation.
Right.
I gave them 70 minutes worth of the stuff.
Yeah.
My attitude being, if you're going to charge 50% more,
Yes.
50% more music.
Yeah.
And now I get people that are complaining. I got one returned saying, this isn't what I thought it was. I wanted the first record that they did.
Well, what this person
in the
wanted,
old form.
Yeah.
this person was, used to the songs in the old order, wanted that order on CD. And we're doing that too. We've done a few anthologies, but now we're going to go back and do things just as they were available before. But who was it you said had found that was?
Chris Strockwitz of our Holy Records.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And we do have some ideas along those lines. I rather like records that have themes.
Yeah. He's thematized some of it. Is that a word? Some of his stuff. Yeah.
Now, you see, we know, and I really like Chris a whole lot. I think he probably feels that, with the exception of Hobart Smith and Frank Prophet and so on, that some of the music that Folk Legacy has produced, like Gordon Bach, is more living room music or middle class, dreadfully middle class music. But we feel that the folk revival of people who came to this music not because they were born into it, but because they loved it, that the tradition and the revival both have a reason to be documented.
Sure.
I mean, there are a lot of things in the revival that are artistically, we think, very worthwhile. But I know that Chris is much more interested in the music with the bar left on.
Yes.
We also like
Yeah.
and love.
I'm in the process of releasing right now a CD with a 60-page booklet. It's been held up while we found a jewel case that would hold
Oh.
a 60-page booklet of field material that we recorded over the years that has never been made available.
Right.
And we're going to go ahead with it, even though it's almost all unaccompanied, and it's some from the Ozarks and something from Indiana and something from New Brunswick and something from Scotland. Sort of the theme being our collecting as we went through what we've done in this business.
Right.
Well, it's all ballads and story songs. There's some humorous songs, but they really are all songs that tell a story. Talking about words that have been lost, ballad.
Now, how do you promote something like that? I was talking at length a while ago with Brad Paul, who does promotions for Rounder, and I was saying, okay, you get a Kentucky banjo record, which is something they recently released, and I said, what the hell do you do with this to get it out to the market?
What
And
did you say?
well, they're very sophisticated. I don't know how well it works, but they've got computer-based programs of writers at things like the Old Time Herald and Sing Out and Dirty Linen. They will get a blurb out with the CD to everyone. They've got, he's got this long list. He's got all these categories: Celtic, old-timey, bluegrass, unaccompanied ballad, blah, blah, blah.
Disc jockey people.
And he'll give you disc jockey people who do shows. I mean, and they're lengthy lists, and everyone gets a packet. It might be one paragraph. It might be, other albums on it as well. Everyone gets a CD for the most part. And do you guys do things of that nature?
Oh,
We
sure.
Yeah.
have given away as many as 200, 250.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah.
And then I study the playlist. That's the reason I've been talking about the folk DJ list.
Right.
I study the playlist and see how many we wasted.
Yeah.
And there are so many that it's just ridiculous. I now am compiling a list of just those that have used our material over the past several weeks.
Right.
That have received the new things we've recently
Yeah.
released.
Yeah.
Just to see if any of them actually play. Well, we sent out a limited number, but I've boiled it down to about 50 or 60 shows in the entire country
Right.
that actually seem to play anything resembling what we do.
If you ask some of the reviewers, Sandy, I would say probably
Right.
I love old-timey music. We don't produce much in it, obviously. If we did, the old-time era would be the first.
Yeah.
I'd like to have almost everything that Yazoo has in their catalog.
Right.
Just great stuff.
Yeah.
Coming out those, times ain't like they used to be. And
Yeah, that's a great set.
marvelous stuff.
Now, do you feel the audience is aging, and why?
Oh, absolutely.
Why is that so? Why isn't this hitting young people the way it did?
It's the music industry to a large extent, I think.
I don't know. There was recently an exchange on, I signed a letter, folk legacies rather than folk folky,
Uh-huh.
and some guy that I wrote to said you should have been at Gordon Bach's concert in Burlington the other night and seen all the folk fogies that were there.
Yeah.
But I look at the Mudcat breakdown on the Mudcat Cafe membership,
Yeah.
and the greatest number of members are in their 50s,
Yeah.
and a few 60s, a good number of 40s,
Yeah.
and then it tapers off down to maybe 3 that are in their 20s.
Do you have any thoughts on why that's so? I mean, do you have any idea?
Because the people that came out of the 60s folk revival,
Yeah.
and maybe they did discover folk music through the Kingston Trio.
Well, that's my own theory. I think that popular culture hit had a huge effect,
Yeah,
and there hasn't been another one since then, and so it hasn't hit other generations.
that's right. Some of them discovered that there were roots to the music those guys were doing.
Yeah.
And that's because what they were doing in the 60s, the late 50s and the 60s, was taking traditional music and dressing it up to make it sound like pop music.
Well,
Right.
that's what Peter, Paul, and Mary and...
Yeah, and they maybe had a little marshmallow syrup on it, and everybody loved it.
Well, then
Then,
you had
in
writers,
England,
too, like that guy we sang with in New Bedford, Sandy. Eric Anderson. We had never
Yes,
met before, but I mean, there were a lot of people that were basically writers.
I'm talking about the ones that were really big popular groups like Peter, Paul, and Mary,
Right.
who would do a contemporary Puff the Magic Dragon type of thing, but then they would also do The Cruel War is Raging,
Right.
and they would do it in an arrangement that made it sound like a pop song or whatever. But we went to England in 57 because Ewan McCall was writing new songs that sounded like traditional songs. It was kind of the other way around. Rather than taking a traditional song and making it sound like a pop song.
Okay. Yeah.
And that attracted us.
Right.
And I really wanted to sit at his feet.
Yeah.
We were blessed to be able to do that for him.
I think, to enjoy a 20-verse ballad, certainly for an adolescent, that's not as exciting as rock and roll to dance to.
I'll give you an example. We did a program in classrooms at the local high school, and one of the kids, a friend of our own boys, this was some years ago, said to me between classes, "What's this music for?" And I thought that's very interesting. He thinks the music has to have a function, namely for him to move to or dance to.
Uh-huh.
That just to sit and listen to a story being told with a melody line was beyond his ken. It was something he had never
Well,
seen before.
to say it's for expressing a feeling, maybe the songs we were singing didn't relate to him. The funny thing that happened,
That was
Sandy will tell you.
This kid was on the wrestling team, and he was seeded first in the state for going to the big state meet.
Uh-huh.
And I saw him in the drugstore buying a Reese's peanut butter cup. And when it came down the next day or two to go to the weigh-ins at the state meet, he couldn't make weight. So this had happened just before he asked me this question. What is this music for?
So Sandy
So
wrote
I did a
blues.
parody of Easy Rider. What made Jidge
Jidge, what made your weight
go up must have been that Reese's peanut butter cup. And I sang it in the classroom. And by the time we left the school that afternoon,
No, Sandy, by the time we got to the lunchroom, 10 minutes later, that song was all over the
the wrestling coach came up and asked for the song, He had heard about it. Kids were. So I said, okay, now, Ginge, that's one of the things that these songs is for. So there you go.
I want to introduce what I promise will be the last topic of the evening here. And you've talked about, I think, some.
You don't have to apologize.
Okay.
I love to talk.
Good. Okay. You've made reference to some political struggles, and do you see this as as at some level a political project, or just a musical or aesthetic project? That's the whole thing. Everything you've listened to all your life and put out. And I don't mean politics in the sense of topical songs. I mean politics with a small p, perhaps.
I believe this is a community expression.
Right.
Or should and could be. And I think, well, I came out of I campaigned for Wallace in 1948.
Mm-hmm.
I came out of a political awareness.
Henry, that is.
I understand.
Social awareness and concern that has informed my entire life.
Yeah.
And I believe that topical music has a place and a function. And at the same time, the traditional music that is not topical, not as ephemeral,
Right.
as a picket line song, can also inform the humanity that we would like to see our people
Yeah.
share. And I don't know exactly how to say this, but to me that's political.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not as political as my wife in that I don't watch Crossfire every night. But
Now.
Hardball.
Same time as the PBS NewsHour, Sandy.
at the same time, I read a lot about the Depression, about the coming of the New Deal, about the addressing of the human problems that we're faced and the poverty in this country and the things that we're still trying to deal with. And I believe that we who are concerned about that, well, I find that I have a lot of friends in the folk world who share that same concern.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's political, yes.
Yeah, I think he's also talking about political in the sense of, as he said, small.
Ennobling the small over the big, looking at communities that are lost.
Right. Well,
I mean, I understand Archie
Truly.
Green's devoting his entire life to the study of music of a people.
hello,
I'm here.
Sandy? I think something happened to his phone.
Okay, well,
Hey, now's my chance.
you're back.
You lost it. I mean, here's Archie, labor songs and concerns of working people in his entire career,
Yeah.
and what a valuable contribution he's made.
Yes.
I mean, you can't help but share. Well,
Let me say, though, we know someone who is involved with, I'll use the term folk music because we all know what we mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's only really interested if it's topical, if it's from some other ethnic group, if it's really hard, edgy, driving. Frank Prophet was a native North Carolinian, but had kind of a warm and comfortable voice compared to, say, someone like Roscoe Holcomb with the high, lonesome sound.
Right.
This guy I'm talking about, who has been a friend of ours over the years, but I'm sure he too really looks down his nose at somebody who just sings a love lyric because it's not political in Spanish, or you know what I mean.
Yes.
And there's a kind of reverse snobbery because, something's middle class, middle-aged, middle class, and middle west.
Right.
But I feel political about this in that I really like music that is not commercial.
Yes.
I don't find a lot in the commercial music industry that interests me, and we would rather
A cover as in cover a song?
Cover of a
Oh,
song.
yeah.
Okay.
And he pointed out that this was a term originally used in the commercial music
Right.
industry for middle-class
generally-
white pop singers
To do black.
who were taking material from the unknown black artist in the South and making it palatable to a larger audience and reaping the benefits, whereas
For making the
other
money
person,
from it.
the
Yeah.
other person from whom it came received nothing.
Right.
And this was what was the term cover originally meant. Margaret MacArthur sent a 2-line response saying, I've always wondered how the term went from the farm to the music industry, and I think you finally have explained it to me. And it was brilliant.
I'm so naive, I didn't know what the farmyard term cover
She never
meant.
heard of a bull covering
Yeah.
a cow.
I'm a city girl. Even if it was a small city, we didn't have cows in Whiting, Indiana.
Okay.
But does that make any sense what I said about, to me, okay, this is maybe some kind of a quiet cause.
Oh, very much so. And I have what I've detected is that I think in the same sense you spoke of, I think of what I call vernacular music as being almost inherently political, just because it reflects group solidarity, and it's always seen as well, in many instances it's seen as a reflection of leftist political values, but in some ways they're very conservative political values.
Yeah, and you have to, again, I thought, vernacular is neat, except you have to explain it
Yeah.
every time you use it to a group of people. But you must also recognize that different communities have a different vernacular,
Right.
that the language of one is not necessarily understood by another.
Sure.
And yet, within the community that shares that common language, a song can be very meaningful.
Right.
Just like the term cover can be meaningful to a
Right.
person who is familiar with rural terminology.
Well, with the
And is meaningless to a gal from Whiting, Indiana.
But are you saying that you feel that there is a political element to almost any traditional song? Because, you take some kind of a love lyric, and it can be simply feeling sad because someone has spurned you, and that isn't necessarily the friend I mentioned who sort of looks down on anything that isn't political from a minority group or real hard edge.
right.